Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we're back with another one of these. So before we even start, I want to just clarify a few things. I guess maybe I didn't make it entirely clear in the last video, but some people were a little bit confused. So the point of these videos is, as it was in the beta, to give you guys a visual comparison of the classes and specs in question. I'm trying to find dungeons as a PUG, but also with groups that are interesting. Something a little bit different about them. And obviously that first video was basically episode 0. Like, there was not much interesting there other than the freaking tank leaving. But, here I think you're going to see a little bit more, right? So we talked about Bombkin in the tier list, the DPS tier list. We talked about Death Knight in the DPS tier list, and we talked about Shaman, of course, as well. And we have 3 of those. So we have a Bombkin, an Unholy Death Knight, and an Enhancement Shaman. I was hoping he was Ellie when I saw the group, but regardless, this is what we'll go with. And that's all going to be on the screen. That's for you guys to take a look at, okay? But what I'm going to be commentating on is things that strike me as particularly interesting in the dungeon. I'll be asking for your feedback, ways that I can improve my play, and we'll also be critiquing the other, the players in the group's play. Now, whether or not you feel that's justified, I really couldn't care. It's not for me to brag about how much better I am than anyone else. It's just to talk, okay? So, first things first, you're going to see here, I have a very active DPS approach, even on trash, and that is because it is overflowing this week. And basically, whenever overflowing comes up, I really don't even want to heal them. If I had more time during this week, I would have gotten a nice tanking video made, because overflowing week is my least favorite week as a Holy Paladin, especially, in any situation where, especially now that I've gotten some gear is what I mean to say. Like, my crits, just look at the numbers on the voodoo there. I've added a overhealing, or like a count just for this week. It's the large bolded number on the top left of the bars. So you're going to see some pretty ridiculous numbers every once in a while, and I just don't really know what to do about that. Especially as a Holy Paladin, we have all these weird synergies where things just kind of escalate in terms of the amount of health it heals. And it's in raids, it's like, well, it's whatever, because oftentimes it's effective, but overhealing is not really that big of a deal. But in a 5-man, it honestly feels like I'm better off just doing damage full time. So that's going to be one thing that I immediately struggle with, okay? But yeah, you'll see the DK die, and a lot of that, his death was a lot on me, because I'm just sitting there thinking, like, should I heal him or should I not? And then he just gets crushed. And, if I topped him off, but, he would have had overhealing. So I don't know. It's really difficult as a Holy Paladin. So if anyone else is playing Holy Paladin, especially as somebody who, likes to heal more than they like to DPS, I'd like to hear your mentality, because as you see there, I have a pretty giant one. I think I used, I lay on hands there. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the problem I have is that I like to DPS as well, so it's kind of difficult for me. In fact, one of the hardest parts as a damage dealer, like a healer damage dealer, is getting your mental mindset ready for having all of these different responsibilities, right? So, I might need to throw a sack on the tank. I might need to pop CDs to heal. I might need to pop CDs to damage. I might need to pre-pot. I might need to, resurrect somebody. I might need to put an immunity on somebody. All the things that we've talked about Paladin are all there for Holy Paladin. They basically have to do it all. And I can do it all to some great degree. Just look at the recount or whatever it is, Skada. Look at Skada now, and it is absolutely insane just how much damage Holy Paladins can do. And I'm really not that much more gear than these people. I'll have that at the end of the video as well. But regardless, also in the tier list, we talked a lot about the proper way to do this. And we simply do not do it in any maximized way, which is an unfortunate thing. I would have liked to find a rogue for this dungeon so we could talk a little bit about Shroud. But people were telling me that you can skip these bears here. I'm not exactly sure how it's done. One of the guys told me about it, and he laid it out pretty well, but I still can't seem to visualize it. He said you can go around the side. Yeah, I guess like around the right side there, the barrier is gone now, but around the right side there's an opening in the barrier that you can get through, so you can just shroud all the way around there. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, we're going to see the first boss here. And once again, we got Unholy and Bombkin that are of the targets, of our visual, what we're looking at here in this video. So, and right out of the gate, we pull coming right off that pack, so everybody's a bit low, and I'm kind of in between here. I'm like, well, I could top the deeps, or I should heal people, and somebody dies, so it's like, oh man, I don't know. I look at this and be very disappointed with myself, but what we should have done, in my opinion, is just gave a second, right? Nobody realizes how much damage I'm going to do. In fact, you're going to see that at the end, but If I was a damage dealer, I would probably be pretty upset to see that, to see me basically not healing people. But the way I look at it is, if we just gave everyone a second, we could have all went into this full health, and this boss could have been dead 20 seconds earlier because of my damage. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. What would you guys do? How would you guys handle the situation? So yeah, those are like the big things I'm still working on, right? Like, dealing with actual mechanics is like, maybe bad, maybe good. I don't know. I think I do a decent job. I consider myself one of the raids like most accountable individuals. But in 5-mans, obviously I don't actually know a lot of the things that could kill you, especially you do them in different affixes and different levels each time I do them. So it's hard to ever say like, oh, I've done this exact same affix 3 times, I know exactly what to do. It's just never like that, so but anyway, we get right to the next packs here. Nothing too crazy, but you saw the damage there. It was a little bit, it was what I expected. All 3 of these damage dealers are actually quite comparable in terms of their item level and their gear. Some of them are missing like enchants or have some awkward legendaries, but regardless, it's tough enough to isolate the variables. We can't really say whether or not they're in the right gear. But yeah, it does seem like they're all about like heroic rating. Like they've done some rating, but nothing like no mythic progression or no outstanding pieces from that. So that's fine. At least, that's what you expect for a dungeon. You don't expect to be running with people who are full, like, Mythic 10 of 10 and stuff like that. But occasionally, the damage we have is more than enough, obviously. We're going to 3 chests this, by the way. And once again, Sanguine, Overflowing, and Tyrannical. So that's one of the easier fixes. I think a lot of people would say, if not the easiest. I think it's the easiest for pushing high. But of course, there is some things that can still mess you up. And really, like I said last video, Tyrannical boss weeks are really tough for pugging, and it's really a pain. Like, I'm looking forward to whenever it's not Tyrannical, that's for sure. Definitely going to try to get some videos made on that week, because non-tyrannical is when Holy Paladin can shine. So as you see here, most people are just not taking any damage. So I'm just going to go full on this Dryad. It's quite an annoying thing. Even though I could be cleaving the large packs, I would add another mushroom to melee, and as you see there, it does become an issue. The mobs here are no joke. Even though it's not not the fortified week, the trash can still be very dangerous, and especially if I'm not getting ahead of the healing, I could be I could be struggling quite substantially. So as you see there, just a massive overhealing on the tank, and I just can't get him off. I just can't get it off him. So I really don't know what to do in that situation. If you guys have any tips on that, please, I would love to hear it. I'm not sure there is any, honestly. I think the answer is just to not have it happen. And it's one of the things that I hate the most about healing these 5-mans as a Holy Paladin. I don't know what even happened there. I wish I could slow it down and watch it a little bit more, but I think it was just a crit, you know what I mean? Basically, anytime my heals crit, it's going to be a pain in the ass, because we're talking about like 4+ million overhealing. Typically, when they heal, it's like less than 1 million, but then when they crit, it's like triple, because of all the, the procs and everything, especially with Holy Shock. So, yeah, it's great for DPS when Holy Shock crits, but sometimes in these dungeons, you could honestly wipe to it. And then, of course, Lay on Hands doesn't do me any favors. I use that a couple times. I have the Legendary on for Lay on Hands. I thought this would be a great legendary. I still only have 3, so I thought this would be a great legendary to use for 5-mans on top of maybe even, what's the name of the talent? The talent that reduces it further. Using Lay on Hands regularly seems like a great way to focus more on DPS. If I could use one global to fully heal somebody, that seems very optimal, seems like a very good situation. And getting it down to a 2-minute CD is quite good. But unfortunately, it doesn't help me here at all, because literally every time I use it, I basically put an unhealable shield on the guy. Like, I would have to Lay on Hands him again to get that shield off. So I really don't know what the right play there is. But unfortunately, this week gives me a lot of fits, and this is why I like playing a Holy Paladin, because of their really their high up end, top end on output in any way. Both healing and DPS, but it can be quite difficult when you can't control it. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like Holy Paladin have one of the hardest jobs in overhealing, or in overflowing, because it's so dangerous. It's so difficult to know exactly when and where you're going to have a problem. But so anyway, this is going to be a really representative boss for damage. I feel like this is one of the best bosses for healer DPS in the video game, because the faster you kill it, the less damage your tank is going to take, and there basically are no mechanics for damage dealers. Other than that knockback, there's basically nothing to even care about. You can just stand here and DPS the entire time, and as you see, we're going to get paid dividends now. We have We have Lust, but we didn't use it there. So if we Lust on this fight, I think we would have been, yeah, we would have been doing really, really, really silly damage. So regardless, people are also doing good damage. It's not like the group is failing, but we do see Bombkin's lack of single target. And this was something that I spoke about on the video, the tier list. We can't say for sure that this guy's like one of the best players in the game, but I think it's pretty clear that, Unholy DK and Frost DK are very strong. A lot of people were well, not a lot of people. There was like 2 guys who were very dismissive of me placing them number 1 overall, but in this dungeon, you don't really see it. I think we do grip a few things, nothing really to speak about, but I do say that, the damage that we have, even as Unholy, a mediocre geared Unholy, is quite substantial. And I'm sure the guy didn't pot. I'm sure the guy, I don't know if they're even flasks. So, but yeah, I don't know. I still have flasks from raid, so I came right out of this. I went from raid right into this. So luckily I have a flask on, but it's not making the biggest of deals. Now at the end, you're going to see the gear and stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about my gearing while we do all this trash. Nothing really going on here. I have the Swarming Plague Hive on. That's a good damage trinket. I have it 880 as well still, so that's pretty cool. Some others I was speaking to said that this is one of the best Holy Paladin trinkets for damage, but I don't really know much about it. And one of the problems I'm having with Holy Paladin damage, like I'm trying it in raids as well now. Long story short, it's a cool thing, but it's probably not the most efficient I can be. But we have a couple extra healers for some fights, and it would be good to be able to get some damage in there as well. So, regardless, that's what I'm doing. Now, the problem I'm having is figuring out like what I should and shouldn't do for it. I don't know. There's not really many guides on it. I can't really seem to find any like theory crafting on it. I don't know what the damage, like what's important for damage. Obviously, I think crit and haste would be very good. Mastery, I don't believe to do anything for damage. So the fact that I have mastery on some gear obviously is a DPS loss, but yeah, I'm going to heal too at some point, so that's pretty important. And then, I think versatility might actually be better than haste. I'm not really sure. I think it depends a lot because, so much of the damage is burst that when your Holy Shock is already, like, it gets to the point where if I spam, like, I do this all the time. I just spam the buttons. If I press them too fast, like the way the GCD works is like if I press them too fast, like the input grace period actually uses the ability twice in a row on Crusader Strike. So it can be quite a pain. Now here we go. We're already gotten off to another bad start here. I'm just struggling to keep people where I want them health wise, but I have this propensity to try to top them off. I have this like when I see that people aren't topped, I think, oh well, I should heal them, but it's hard to do that in overflowing. So I'm trying to balance all that. Now I got that 8 absorb. That's pretty funny, right? But anyway, whatever that, I can't read it. I don't know if it says 8, but regardless, this is a pretty tough fight. So I'm trying to take it serious. I'm trying to give everybody the credence and the healing that they need. But unfortunately, people are going to get hit by that so regularly. Like the guy got hit by it and he stood in it for a good 2 seconds. So it's a difficult fight to heal when there's a lot of mistakes abound. And I feel like this is, coming off the last boss, one of the hardest fights to DPS as a Holy Paladin, as a healer in general, because your role still is, of course, to heal the group. And people aren't going to make it easy, man. People are not. And they're going to run. They're going to get knocked back into whelps because they're going to try to DPS instead of running forward, stuff like that. So and then look at that. That's everybody getting crushed by that. And there goes, down goes the DK. It doesn't look like he was standing in it, but I have to believe he was. And then I don't even know what that guy was. The guy must have been in front of the boss. I don't know. But regardless, it's a tough one. And I just can't help but blame myself. Like people are going to say like, oh, you're letting people die. Then you're not doing the healing job very well. But in this fight especially, it's tough. And this is one that I've always struggled with. I don't think there's much to improve on, honestly, here. I just got to heal people more. I'm trying to get as much damage in as possible, but as you see now, I've fallen below the tank. I mean, 200k for a fucking healer is still really nothing to sneeze at. Like, outside of Holy Paladins, 200k would probably be pretty good to end on this fight for, like, say, like a Resto Shaman or something like that. So it's really not that big of a deal, but I hold myself to standard that's unrealistic, so I like to do the best that I can on every situation. I think that's probably one of the most important things about dungeons. There's so many ways to optimize that it is important to have that mindset. If you're going to just, say, I'm just going to heal the whole dungeon, never going to do a point of damage, then you're basically getting carried. You're not doing what you should be doing. You're not trying to carry. You're not always getting carried, but you're not trying to carry, and that's what I try to do. Going all the way back to challenge modes, if you watch the videos I used to make on challenge modes, which weren't on this channel, obviously, the channel didn't even exist, but I used to talk all the way back to MOP about every challenge mode, you need one person to carry. You need 5 people, but one person has to carry. You're never going to get a group where every single person is doing the same amount of damage, doing the same amount of utility, doing the same amount of efficacy. It just doesn't exist. There's always going to be one person carrying. So I like to play the tank and carry. That was my my passion for a long time. And now I still enjoy tanking, but the artifact system makes it difficult to keep up, especially, you know, the gearing system as well, since I'm never going to, basically never going to get the gear I need for prot. There's just too much gear as Holy. I just can't possibly, you know, I have to use the item level gear, but it's going to have the worst stats. So it's difficult for me to continue tanking on this character. In fact, I like tanking on my Blood DK a lot more, but the problem with it is it's just not a carry class. It doesn't do very much damage, and even though Death Grip can be incredibly useful, it's not nearly as strong as it once was. So I'm definitely going to try to get more Paladin and blood tanking stuff going on. Maybe not always in the video form, but maybe live stream, something like that. So but yes, now I carry on my Holy Paladin, right? So that's my whole purpose here. As a Blood DK in WoD and as a monk in MOB, I used to try to basically top the DPS as a tank. I felt if you could do that, if you could top the DPS as a tank, you were carrying the dungeon regardless. Like, no matter how bad, even if you were maybe pulling improperly, not interrupting, whatever, the amount of damage that you can put out from a role that's not meant to do a lot of damage is a staggering amount. And it's important because it really shifts like the meta of the game, you know. The game is not balanced around the tank having the top DPS or the healer being the top DPS. It's not. I don't care what you say. Like, you don't need a Holy Paladin doing 1,000,000 DPS to be able to kill this next boss on a +11. But it fucking helps, man. It really fucking does. And this is part of the reason we 3-chest it. So you're going to see the timer there. Now, I hate, you know, I don't like to brag or anything like that. Like I said, that's not what this is about here. But if it wasn't for my damage on all of these bosses, we would not have 3-chest this. I think that is a fact. Now, maybe you guys will disagree, so feel free to let me know if you do. But regardless, I look at that as empirical. Like I say, without my DPS from, like, you know, CDs, and even right now, like, I'm still trying to be very conservative. I don't want to do anything stupid here. Just let it die and we'll be good. Oh, actually, no, that's not even true. I'm looking at the DPS chart and making that inference, but we didn't actually get out of combat. Although I got out of combat, I don't think the whole group did, so I'm not really sure how that works, but regardless, you see I have the pre-pop, but I didn't, like, the reset didn't happen on Skada. But anyway, I'm doing quite a lot of damage. And you'll see people comment on that at the end of the video. But anyway, if you can take anything away from this, you can look a little bit more about Bombkin's damage. You see DK's strength, and now you'll be able to compare their gear at the end. I'm going to try to make that a thing in all the videos. Some of the older videos I had recorded that I might end up uploading, I don't have that. I didn't know about Exorcist, so that was a good tip in the previous video. Thank you guys for the tip on that. For those of you who contributed to the eye level discussion, very useful. But yeah, I'll try to do that on any new recordings I do moving forward. I do have a few old recordings that I might use as videos, but unfortunately I won't have that. So yeah, there we go. We got the 3-chest. So the other things to take away from it is that, you know, I'm struggling a lot with overflowing. So if you guys have any tips about Holy Paladin overflowing, I would love to hear them. I'm sure there's something I'm missing. I don't do a ton of damage, or I don't do a ton of healing of dungeons, and really I'm just getting into healing dungeons now. This is the first expansion I've ever really healed dungeons, so I could definitely use your help, especially on overflowing. And then also, if you guys saw anything that you saw in the dungeon that we could have done differently, obviously we were over mob count there quite substantially, and that's something that we could have done a lot differently. So anything else like that, let me know. Otherwise, check out the chat. The guys are talking about the DPS. So thanks for watching, and take a look at the actual eye levels of these people. It's quite interesting. But otherwise, that's that. We'll see you guys in the next video.